All right. We're in? We're
Yes,
recording?
sir. We're recording.
Welcome, everyone, to the Rink Rat Report podcast. Recording this one July 20th, Thursday. As always, joined by Jason.
How's it going, everyone? Super excited because today's a big day. We have a special announcement. So why don't you take it away here, Piz?
Yes, today it's our first episode being under a podcast network. We're under the Hockey Podcast Network. They just brought us on. We're super excited to get started with them. And then, to be joining such a great network. I think some of their other ones you might recognize, Tales with TR. That's one of their other hockey podcasts that they have there. I don't know why I keep saying hockey podcast. It's in the name. It should be pretty self-explanatory, but yeah. And in case you didn't notice, we're a hockey podcast as well.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a perfect fit there. So
yeah.
happy that they figured out what our niche was and brought us on. But seriously, like really happy and really excited to be working with them. Hopefully we can get some like collaborations going forward. If you guys know some and know some of their podcasts and are interested in them and want to have those hosts on, we have now an easier pathway to get those people on the show. So I think it's going to be good, especially going into the season, to learn a lot more about, instead of just focusing on the Leafs, just like what other teams are going to be doing and what we should be looking out for when playing other teams leading up to these games. Like when, I don't even know what's the first game of the season. Whoever the Leafs play the first game of the season, I'm sure we'll be able to
Montreal. Yeah,
we'll be able to communicate with people who are Montreal fans and get their take on things, and it opens up for a much healthier discussion instead of just a bunch of fans yelling at each other on Twitter, which is always nice. But hey, we try and steer away from that. So excited.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're going to get into the small tidbit of Leafs news that is going on right now. The Leafs have hired Mike Van Ryn. You might remember him. He played for the Leafs for 27 games in 2008, 2009. He was injured a lot that year. He was injured a lot last few years of his career. And then he went on to start his coaching career right after that Leafs season. He has been with the St. Louis Blues for the last 5 seasons as an assistant coach. I believe he was with the Tucson Roadrunners and the Arizona Coyotes organization previously. I think that might have lined up when Brad Treliving was in that organization as well. I'm not 100% sure. And then the Leafs also added another assistant coach, former head coach of the Ottawa Senators and former head coach of the Ottawa Senators and Tampa Bay Lightning. That makes more sense. And his name is Guy Boucher.
Yeah.
I don't know why Brian Boucher kept coming up in my head. I'm like, that's not who it is. It's Guy Boucher, who you famously might know. He brought Tampa Bay to the conference finals. He brought the Ottawa Senators to the conference finals. And there's that stupid video of Chris Pronger literally taking the puck behind the net and just standing there, just waiting for Tampa Bay to stop the neutral zone trap. But Guy Boucher will be running the Leafs power play, they said, and Mike Van Ryn will be taking over the defense, while Dean Chenoweth will be specializing in the penalty kill, and Manny Malhotra will be moving up to the eye in the sky, which was previously a position that Paul McLean held, another former Sens coach.
Yes. It's going to be interesting because people don't give Guy Boucher respect. Everyone essentially runs the 1-3-1 now in the to stop the neutral zone. And I mean, Chris Pronger, buddy, all you have to do is just skate the puck, and then you can create an odd man rush of speed.
So why would you skate the puck when you could just sit behind the net and kill time?
Yeah, that's fair.
Right.
But I saw a clip on Twitter of literally the game. I think it might have been the game after, where they were literally sitting in their own zone for the first minute of the game, and Martin St. Louis just kept circling around at the blue line. Nothing happened. But I mean, hey, like it's implemented throughout the NHL right now. So I mean, it's obviously a different game, but I mean, Guy Boucher is a well-respected coach. Mike Van Ryn, former Leaf. I don't know much about Mike Van Ryn, so I don't really have much to say about him. But one thing I
know, he went all the way up through the ranks. I believe he started with Niagara Ice Dogs as an assistant, and then he was with the Kitchener Rangers, and then he worked his way up to Kitchener Rangers head coach, and then he was with the Arizona Coyotes organization. I'm having a time today with words, the most basic words possible. This is holy moly. We got a good episode ahead, and I am tripping over myself over the most basic parts. Fantastic start. Anyways, Mike Van Ryn, this is a former player that didn't just like get plopped into an assistant coach's position right away. He had to work his way up from the juniors and then into the minor leagues and then into the NHL. And he's been in the NHL for the past few seasons. A few people are bringing up some interesting points, and that is the fact that, I mean, like, you have a former head coach now on the bench. Like, if you're Sheldon Keefe, are you getting a little sweaty now? Like,
Of course, you should have been sweaty when you didn't have a contract coming into this year. And I think that was my next point I was going to bring up right there, is that Guy Boucher is, like you said, a former coach, right? And it puts a lot of pressure on Sheldon Keefe. And like, this is something we talked about, that the potential for a mid-season coach change is very, very likely this year if things don't work out well. And it doesn't even have to work out well. Like, we've seen, it doesn't even have to be that bad for a coaching change to happen. The way that this team has started every single year, like the last 3 years under Sheldon Keefe, has been bad. Like, I think that's fair to say. For each time this team has started with Sheldon Keefe, I understand 1 year Austin Matthews was hurt. Last year we had like a myriad of injuries on defense, so it was a little tough. But you could also argue that the defensemen who came in, Rasmus Sandin, Timothy Liljegren, were probably better than some of the guys who were not playing to begin with. Excuse me.
Who was injured to start last year? Jake Muzzin wasn't.
There was someone on D who was hurt. Morgan Riley was hurt.
At one point during the year.
Was it someone on D was
Jake
hurt?
Muzzin missed preseason. He played in the regular season. Hole played in the regular season. Riley played in the regular season. It was Giordano was playing. I think we had the meat and potatoes of our lineup pretty much.
Someone definitely got hurt, because that's why we signed Rasmus Sandin on defense. Remember?
There was a bunch of injuries in the preseason. There was a preseason game that I was at, and it was Dahlstrom and Ben both got injured, and Muzzin was already injured. And then there might have been one other one,
Maybe
but I can't remember. We had the meat and potatoes of our defense, though, I would say. Like, our roster was pretty much set. I think it's just kind of on the coach that, like,
100%.
They started like shit.
No excuses there. Yeah. So, but I mean, we've seen this multiple times where we haven't started off well. And I mean, listen, obviously this is like some revisionist stuff, but like that could be the difference between us winning us coming first in the division and us not coming first in the division, right? Simple as that. Obviously with Boston now, like last season, it was tough to say. But yeah, like could be the difference between home ice. We don't know. And it hasn't affected us yet, but I could see this being a contentious issue for the front office, saying, hey, like we've seen this multiple times where the team has not seemed ready to start the season. And that's something we're going to take note of, and that's something we're going to pay attention to down the road. So, yeah, I think like you said, Sheldon Keefe should be very worried. But if he has faith in himself and thinks he's like good enough at his role, he should be fine.
So the one thing I put in my hand, I forget. We're now on video. I probably look like a moron.
Fine, doesn't matter.
But the one thing that you missed in there that is also important, that kind of turns up the burner there. This is the first year for Sheldon Keefe. There's another one. Oh my God. This is the first year for Sheldon Keefe where the Toronto Maple Leafs are not paying for Mike Babcock's contract. The board of directors for MLSE does not have to look at this and go, I don't want to pay for 2 fired coaches. There's currently none. They're paying for one current head coach. Does that sway their decision? He doesn't have a contract extension. He's essentially a sitting duck. So
yeah, he's a sitting duck, but it is what you make of it, really. Like I see that, like, listen, if you're a good enough coach and you can take this team far, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be re-signed next season. So it's all about what you do with the opportunity, right? It's let's call it a double-edged sword. Is that a good thing and a bad thing? I don't know. There's a saying for it. I can't come up with it on the spot. Anyways, I don't think I have anything else with the coaches here, though.
Yeah, I don't think the pressure will help Sheldon Keefe. I mean, if he was like in like a wildly smart coach, I'd be like, oh, maybe this will change his thinking, whatever. But like, I think he's more of like just like a player's relationship kind of coach.
Yeah.
And so like maybe the pressure will go to his head and he'll have David Kampf on the first line next thing we know. So
who knows? Hope not. All right, guys, we interrupt this program to bring you some breaking news. So we record this episode prior to Sunday. And on Sunday, as a lot of you know in Leafs Nation, Ilya Samsonov has signed a 1-year deal awarded a $3.55 million AAV in arbitration. So the team and Samsonov went to arbitration together. We talked about, we spent 10-15 minutes last episode talking about the arbitration case. That goes in the can. So I mean, here we are. Samsonov is signed. Like Joe, what are your thoughts on the signing overall? What are your thoughts on them going to arbitration, not settling it beforehand? Tell me more about this deal.
Yeah, so we compared it before to the Tristan Jarry deal back from 2020. He got 3 years at 3.5. Yeah, 3 years at 3.5. I thought that was an interesting sort of starting spot. Even though I think Samsonov has more had more career games played than Jari did at that point. So I was looking close to 4. I do think that the arbitrator probably looked at this and also saw an 897 save percentage from the year before and took that also into account, as well as the years past. So that's where I wasn't taking that into account. I was mainly saying like, hey, this is the starting point at 919 save percentage. I guess the arbitrator just looks at save percentage and they're not looking at, team adjusted or how was the team in Washington in front of them, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I'm all right with the number 1 year. Obviously, we would have liked 2 years, just because that lines up with Joseph Wool's contract and it's at such a good value too. But who knows who takes the reins this year? It's really going to be interesting to see. I think by January, it'll be a little bit more of a goalie battle. Hopefully, I think that would be the best case scenario, that both of them are playing as well as they can, especially from what we saw from the end of the season from Joseph Woll. It could potentially be, right? It's
Yeah.
not, never say never, especially with goalies. So the 1 year obviously is less than what we would have liked, but 3.55 I think is fair. I think it's totally fair,
Yeah, and I like
right?
that little analysis that Daddy did on Twitter. He had actually ran some numbers and had an AI model generate the contract projections. He put it into Excel, added the two numbers, and divided them by two. Very, very advanced stuff here. But in all seriousness, I actually like the deal. Like I always said that
Is
like
that
I
Heat Daddy didn't do that?
yeah. You didn't hear what I said his formula was, did you? Just added the
Yeah.
numbers and divided by two. Was that
Oh, it
was
was
not that was his tweet? No,
Heat Daddy. I don't know. I saw a bunch of
a
like
bunch of people are doing. Anyways, it's just
drug
funny that
related references from him this weekend, but
I don't know.
mainly I thought it was Acton a Foolaman or whatever his name
Might
is.
have been a quote tweet I saw from him. Then I apologize if I'm giving credit to the wrong person here, but it was some very funny stuff spreading around Twitter. Anyways, back to the actual deal though.
Mm-hmm.
$3.5 million. Like I've always said, like I don't believe in paying goalies. I know that you strongly disagree with that, but you just tying yourself up with risk with a position that has such a wide variance. I love this deal. Like 1 year, it's perfect. Like I agree with you. 2 years could have been better. Like it would have been nice to line up with Wool to have that tandem. But I mean, if Samsonov is bad this year, you now have the flexibility like that to get out of that. Like you're not
Yeah,
tied to him, right?
you're not stuck to
So
him, exactly.
exactly, and you're also not relying on him, right? You can. You don't feel like you have to force feed him to be the goalie, and it also would create space for Joseph Woll to grab that opportunity because the second Joseph Woll outplays Samsonov, he will get that starting role. Whereas if Samsonov was signed to a longer term deal, I don't think that would be the case.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just speculation here. But again, like you're tied to Wall for another year, so it kind of makes more sense there. And on top of that, like you said, the $3.5 million, it's cheap. Our tandem, excluding Matt Murray, because Matt Murray's probably going to be gone on LTIR or traded. Our tandem is only making what is it, $4.2 million. That gives you
Yeah.
enough space to go out and potentially maybe acquire a goalie at the deadline if things aren't too comfortable, and you should be able to have some space and flexibility to do that, right? So, Leafs probably
Yeah.
don't have it right now, but there could obviously be money moved either way. So, yeah, I don't hate the deal. I like it. The big thing that people were talking about though before the arbitration deal was the fact that it actually went to arbitration. So, what are your thoughts on them going? I mean, like Samsonov obviously thought very highly of himself. He wanted $4.9 million. That's a lot. I thought he was around, like we said, 4, right? 4 was fair. He was
Mm-hmm.
a million over, but that's part of going into negotiations, right? You want to
Yeah.
highball yourself because you guys always end up somewhere in the middle. So, yeah, like what are your thoughts on them just going to arbitration? Do you like that? Not like that? Indifferent? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's tough. It depends who the player really is. I was looking at it from the lens of like stuff I had heard from Jeff O'Neill, where he was saying he went to arbitration with Jim Rutherford, I believe, with the Carolina Hurricanes. This was pre-lockout, um, and he walked out and he was like, "I never want to play for this team ever again. This was just awful. Like it almost made him cry. He was like, what the hell was that kind of thing, right? So that's where it can get ugly in arbitration because you have to argue you are worth X amount of money that we've put on you. And this is why, because you're shit, you suck, you can't stay healthy, you can't stop the puck, you look like you're swimming half the games out there. We put a good defense in front of you, and that's why you had a 919 save percentage. And then he's got to come back and say, no, I'm the best kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's where it could get ugly. Who knows? Maybe he's got thick skin, but we really don't know that. One interesting thing, friend of the show, Kevin Papetti, brought up, he was saying that assuming Matt Murray doesn't count against the cap, the Leafs have the lowest earning goaltending duo since 2012-2013 with Reimer and Ben Scrivens, if you remember that one. And who started the first game of the year in that season? 2012-2013, the half lockout year. Who started the first game of the year?
I don't know.
It was
Reimer?
Ben Scrivens.
Interesting.
Scrivens was running hot with the Marlies. Reimer was coming off a tough stretch in 2011, 2012. You remember he had the concussion that year. He was out for a while. So they went with Ben Scrivens, who first couple games looked really, really good. So, and then they traded him to LA, part of the Bernier trade after that season in 13-14. So some useless Leafs information that you didn't need. So some other things with Ilya Samsonov that I don't think I've brought up before. On PDO Cast, they had Kevin Woodley on. He's a goalie. He's like goalie guy through and through for In Goal Magazine. And he was mentioning about how Ilya Samsonov early in his career, he was kind of taking things for granted. It was just like, didn't really have the correct mindset. Like Washington's goalie coach sent him back to Russia with some things to work on in his first couple of years. And Samsonov got to Russia and said, I'm not working on these things. And it was just didn't want to change that much. But then in his second, like the last year, his last season in Washington, Woodley was saying the second half of the year, he really did start to try to make some changes and try to, be more flexible kind of thing. So that's where it was encouraging. And now it seems like he's the ultimate teammate. He's working, he's doing his best, he's putting in the work kind of thing. In terms of some statistics on Ilya Samsonov, I was able to dig up these partly from Kevin Woodley and Dmitry Filipovich on this particular episode of the PDO Cast. They mentioned them, as well as Megan Shaika from from Stathletes has posted it, and these are some public website stats as well. And here they are. So save percentage, which is just on NHL.com. He was 8th in the league for starting goaltenders, I believe it was, with a 919. Yeah, goaltenders with over 20 starts. He was 8th in the league with a 919. Okay. Goals saved above expected. He was 12th on clear sight, 10th on money puck, 11th on natural stat trick. Goals saved above average. He was 10th on natural stat trick. Goals saved above average. He was 12th on Stathletes. Inner slot save percentage. He was first on Stathletes and first on clear sight, which is from the slot, high opportunity shot, right? Very dangerous shot. He was first in the league at stopping those. High danger goals saved above average, according to natural stat trick, first in the league. You want to hear some? Now, here's why he wasn't the best goalie in the league. He was one of the best goalies, if not the best goalie at stopping high danger chances. Here's where it fell off. Low danger shots saved above expected, according to Clear Sight Analytics. He was 80th in the league. And another one, low danger unblocked shot attempt save percentage above expected. Out of 62 goalies with 20 or more games played, according to Money Puck, Ilya Samsonov was 52nd. So what does that mean? Big, athletic, can get across in a decent hurry, I would say. The low danger shots seem to be killing him. If you remember, there's a couple in the Florida series that were just shots that went in.
Yeah.
Has to do with kind of losing your net and not staying on angle and not staying square to the shots. I noticed at times, like from far out shots, that happens, as well as it could have to do with like looking through screens and over challenging on plays that come out too far. That could be something as well to look at. But overall, I was very happy with Ilya Samsonov last year, especially at $1.8 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
And going into this season, I'm happy with the Leafs duo that they have. I really would like them to add something like whether that be a Brian Elliott, Yaroslav Halak, like a veteran presence that's going to be with the third goalie with the Marlies, a guy that's probably not going to get scooped up on waivers, or maybe, or actually, no, that wouldn't work. Scratch that. Um, yeah, like a third goalie, like similar, like Pittsburgh has Hellberg and Nedeljkovic. I wouldn't want $1.5 million third
Mm-hmm.
goalie, but someone of that quality caliber that's going to play with the Marlies, but can get called up just in case. Will play with the Marlies. Is not good enough to where it's like, oh, this is a steal. You need to grab them on waivers, so they'll pass through waivers, but can be can be solid if called upon. Because right now the Marlies only have some very inexperienced guys down there.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean,
very long-winded. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I get that, and I just want to touch a little bit more on the contract situation here, just to add some context to what you're saying there. Currently, as it stands, like with the Leafs position, and assuming that Matt Murray is off the roster, because that's how we have to operate right now, the Leafs actually have negative 459,000 cap space. So they're
still in trouble.
They're still in trouble. Someone has to get moved, right? And that could just be like a guy like Connor Timmins getting put on waivers, or I don't know, right? But then if you do that, then you're at 12 and
then
6.
He's going to get claimed by Pittsburgh because he used to play for the Sioux Greyhounds.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't want to give that up. But in all seriousness, I really think that there's probably another trade coming which would help shore up that situation. I've been talking about this. I think we talked about this earlier on this episode. I can't remember. I don't know if it's going to be in the part that we cut out. But like, I think a trade is coming, and again, TJ Brody seems like the most obvious candidate. But
it's only 459,000.
Yeah, but how do they trim that? That's the question, right? Because
probably be Timmins.
So they cut Timmins and then they go 12 and 6 for the rest of the season. That's a little risky for me, right? Or do they cut Timmins and
12
Lafferty?
and 6, and then if someone gets injured,
cut Timmins, cut Lafferty, bring in a guy making league minimum. Like, seems a little. I don't know. They could do those things. That's a very real possibility.
Lafferty is one that you also have to remember that the previous regime traded for him. Brad Treliving might hate Sam Lafferty's game.
That's very true.
It's entirely possible. But I would like to keep him around because I'd hope the development staff is good enough to help show like, hey man, when you get the puck, maybe like take a second to think, because he's got some great wheels, but it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure
that is a guy right there.
Yeah, I think you can, if you trade him, if you just like get rid of him off our roster and let's say just replace him with like, I don't know, let's just say Bobby McMahon. I think we still like lose. We're still not we're still not actually. No. We're still over the cap by like 80,000. So it's not as simple as just getting rid of a guy like Lafferty or Timmins and then replacing them with someone who makes league min. That's not enough. So there's probably going to be. We're not going to if we see one move, it's going to be a player making a lot of money get traded. We might see multiple moves, though. Those are kind of the two options that we might see. And in that event, I could see us, like you said, bringing in that cheaper goalie, because if we are offloading a decent amount of space, and we have the space to let's say bring in an extra forward and an extra goalie, like why not do that? Like I love that idea. So especially in a locker room that has like how old is Joseph Fault? 24 and 27-year-old goalie,
1998 born.
Yeah, so 25, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so 25, 27, very young tandem. Like I don't hate that. And yeah, to cap it all off, I like the tandem going into this year. So yeah. Any more thoughts on Ilya Samsonov? I guess
it's less nerve-wracking than last year.
Oh, that's for sure.
I hated answering what do you think of the Leafs goalies this year? I have no idea. One can't stay healthy. The other, I don't know, like like it was just such a wait and see.
Yeah.
You couldn't I just felt like so unnatural giving hot takes about that. Like Matt Murray bounces back, Ilya Samsonov bounces back. We had the best tandem in the world. Like, because it was just like, okay, when you look at the trends, and then at one point both of them got hurt.
It's crazy.
That was not fun.
Yeah. Well, then we got to see Joseph Faust. That was good, and Eric Källgren. But
we did.
Anyways. Do we still have Eric Källgren?
No, he's on the Devils.
Nice, good for him.
No,
Anyways, all right.
We have the Hildebeest
The
now.
Hildebeest. I love that.
Hildebeest.
I hope we don't have to see him this year. No offense to him, but I just hope our
Yeah,
tandem stays
no, he
healthy.
needs to
Fingers
develop
crossed.
100%.
Knock on wood. All right. So that just about wraps it up for Samsonov. Now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Before we go any further, though, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Manscaped. Baseball is back, and I know everyone wants to hit a home run, but you can't do that when your untrimmed bush is starting to look like Wrigley Field. Get your game on point with Manscaped, and you can start scoring on and off the field with their top-notch grooming products. Trusted by 8 million men worldwide. Grab some Cracker Jacks, a hot dog, and the Lawnmower 4.0, and let's play ball. Don't forget to use the code RINKRAT, that is RINKRAT, for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. That was my first live ad read in a little while, and I think that went decently well, especially for how the start of this episode has gone. I don't know if I ate just a bunch of peanut butter. I'm tripping over my words, but I'm glad that one went well.
Yeah, next one coming up is going to be a bit harder, but well, I'll be here supporting you.
Oh God, that one's gonna take. It says 60 seconds. Oh no, I'd be lucky to get it in 60. But for everyone's ears' sake, hopefully, I will try my best. I promise. Anywho, so the goalie situation is pretty clear cut. We have Joseph Wool. We have Matt Murray still, although there is news that came out. Elliot Friedman said that the Leafs might have an issue if they were to want to buy out Matt Murray because there could be injury issues with him. And if he's injured, you can't buy him out, but you can put him on long-term injured reserve, which could be beneficial for the Leafs. You don't have to trade assets just to get rid of the contract, or you don't have to take up cap space, like current available cap space, to get rid of him, kind of thing. Get rid of him. I don't know. I think this might be the end of the road for his career. Unfortunately, 2 Stanley Cups though, not bad, but yeah, it looks like the end of the road in terms of Matt Murray's tenure with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Whoever planted that seed is a genius, by the way, because Elliot Friedman did not come up with that himself, obviously. Someone within the Leafs organization must have said that, right? And planting that seed is ingenious because there's no cap penalty to putting him on LTIR. There's a cap penalty for buying him out. So not only are you saving yourself a potential cap penalty by having an insider say, hey, he might be hurt, so you can't buy him out. If that's the case, then that means he is for sure going to go on LTIR for the rest of the season. I was skeptical that the Leafs would be able to pull this off, but whoever planted that seed and however that seed got planted, that's the solution that they came up with, and that was a very, very, very tidy work by whoever did that, because that is exactly how you play the media to your advantage. That right there is the perfect way to do it.
I agree. I mean, the list of injuries though is extremely extensive. I mean, if you wanted to, you could get any doctor to take a look at him and be like, "Oh, he's got bonitis. Sorry, can't play anymore."
Yeah, but why did? What my understanding is, why didn't that stuff come out before free agency? Why did that stuff come out now?
Why did that not come out at the trade deadline?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe different people running the ship. Who knows? Different perspectives on things. Ooh, I don't know. But
we do have a different GM. Why
do
I keep forgetting that?
That's the biggest thing is our GM and team felt that he was ready to play in the playoffs. That's 2 months ago, but now
if called upon, yes.
If called upon, but a new GM comes in and says, "Hey," or new regime. I don't know how it works, but you know what you're picking up what I'm putting down here. Listen,
the new regime slid him a one-way ticket to the island.
Exactly.
I believe though it's funny when Stefan Robida was on long-term injured reserve. No, it might have been the year after, I want to say, but he was going on scouting trips with Kyle Dubas. I know that for a fact. And I'm not sure. Did he sign 15-16? I can't remember.
I honestly have no clue. I'd
have to look that up. But in 17-18, he for sure was 100%. Stefan Robida in 2017-2018 was going on scouting trips with the Leaf personnel.
Yeah, that 15-16 season, right? 15-16? Yeah, 15-16 season. That
was the most delusional I've ever been.
Pushed to the back of my mind. I was super excited. So Peter Holland, first line forward. What a stud. That guy's such a nice guy, but not a first line center at all. No. Kadri was on our third line.
13-14, they had to start playing him first line center. I can't remember who got injured or whatever, but when they traded for him, he was put right with Phil Kessel right away.
Yeah.
And it was just watching him, even then, I was Yeah, nice guy, but I don't think this is a first line center.
I'm like, this guy's going to be a steal as our fourth line center later on in his career. Just
Yeah.
he went to the KHL and retired.
He might be. There was a rumor he's coming out of retirement for this year.
I think he said he wants to. He was doing a lot of media stuff for, I want to say TSN and like ESPN.
1050, yeah.
But
he was on Overdrive a bunch.
I don't know.
But we'll see.
You know who I'd love to see make a comeback? Friend of the show, Frankie Corrado. I think he's still got the legs. Haven't seen him play hockey once since he's left the NHL.
From what I've heard, he said he's done.
Oh, okay. Well, I support him in either decision.
He's good. He's a good media guy, though.
So he's a fantastic media guy. He's like one.
Yeah,
honestly,
I don't want him back in the NHL. I like him on the radio. I like him on TV. I like him like on the radio. I don't know how much you listen to like the pre-games and like the between periods on the radio for the Leafs game, but
he's good. Yeah,
it's so much better. Even credit to Gord Stellick does a great job too. It's so much better because they can be so much more biased, and it's less so like, who do you think will get traded at the deadline? I think this guy because grit or whatever. It's a lot more like you get into the ins and outs of the game. You get to be a lot more niche on the radio.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic.
Because Sportsnet likes to use. Listen, I love when they have Elliot Freeman on,
but it's TSN and Sportsnet do the same thing between periods, and it's like how are you two different companies doing the exact same thing?
It's what the people want, but one thing that the people didn't want was that little quiz that they did. Oh my goodness, that was atrocious. So
quiz is whatever. Yeah.
No, not the quiz. When SportsCenter tried the quiz, they had a bunch of stats. Amber was
Sportsnet. And it was like Anson Carter, Keith Yandel, and Cassie Campbell, and they got one correct between the three of them in one intermission.
After one intermission, and they did it after they did it before and after the commercial break because they were waiting for someone to get one right. So it was that was a sight to see.
That was funny.
So
that's funny, but yeah, especially after the games on the radio, Jim Ralph, he's very, very frank, and it's very funny. Like if he was not happy with how the refs were, you'll just flat out hear it. You'll be like, these refs were horrible.
Give me that 10 times out of 10. I love when like Homer commentators are like that. Jack Edwards, the only guy who goes too far, but other than that, like I love Homer commentators.
But there was one situation. The Leafs got blown out by Tampa. It was like the 7-1 game where Eric Shalgren played, and Frankie was like, yeah, like I think Shalgren made some good saves. He didn't really have a chance on any of the goals. I think he played all right. What do you think, Ralphie? And Ralphie just goes, I think he played terrible. I was like, okay.
I respect the honesty. Give me the guy being honest 10 times out of 10, wearing his heart on his sleeve over the company man who just talks about trades and stuff. I don't know.
Exactly.
That's what you're going to get in the offseason, mid-July when all free agency is done. Doesn't seem to be a trade in sight. We're going to get 5 minutes about media.
About the radio. About the good old radio and how it's dying, unfortunately. But hopefully not for a while. But anywho, so those are the Leafs 2 assistant coaches that are coming in. Why Sheldon Keefe is on the hot seat inadvertently. The next up that we wanted to talk about, not quite Leafs related. Well, I'll make a Leaf spin on it. I forgot to tell you before the show, which probably would have been nice. But
in the title, it's fine.
Yeah. Anywho, we're going to
get into free agent targets. I'm just going to bury the lead here for you. We're going to get into the free agent targets, or not free agent targets. Sorry, the remaining free agents that are available, because while there are a bunch of free agents that are still available that are probably going to sign, I hope before the start of the season, that you would think wouldn't sign professional tryouts and are good enough to be NHL players and were NHL players last year, but are. I don't know what everyone's waiting for here. I think everyone just kind of went to vacation. So went on vacation. So, I mean, we have a couple good names here, but before we get into the names, we want to talk about our sponsors over at DraftKings. Listen, if you're a new customer, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code THPN. Bet just $5 to score $150 in bonus bets instantly. Use code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 1-800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE-NEW YORK 467-369. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700 on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. In West Virginia, gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. All games regulated by the West Virginia Lottery. Please play responsibly in partnership with Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in Connecticut. Help is available for problem gamblers. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 21 plus in most eligible states, but ages vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire within 7 days after issuance. One boost per eligible game. Opt-in required. Max bet $50. 10 plus registration required for 100% boost. Eligibility, wagering, and deposit restrictions apply. That's it. That was the read. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/baseball terms. So there we go. That is our first little ad read. I got through it all. Was that 60 seconds? I don't even know.
It was better than what I would have.
Anyways,
I forgot to bring water, and my mouth is so dry right now. I would have died during that, like just plain and simple.
That was a mouthful. Also, the way that they spaced this out. Listen, more my fault when I typed it.
I wish the font was. It kind of looks like hieroglyphics.
It's literally just word mush. It's word mush. My brain was not going. There was like the commas and the periods are in such odd spots. It's hard to read. Anyways, not big reader. Anyways, I'm more of a numbers guy, so that's why you tune in, right? So let's get into these free agent targets. I bucketed them into specific like little names. There's some low key defensemen we looked at who could probably play a 6-7 role. I think that's important because if Matt Murray goes on LTIR, we have 1.4 million cap space right now, right? And if that happens and we sign Samsonov, we're going to be over the cap. So someone's going. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's oh my God, what's his name? Connor. Maybe that's Connor Timmins on the way out. Who knows? Could be Connor Timmins who makes 1.1. Maybe that's the difference there. Adds up to 3.26. Could be someone else. Could be someone bigger like TJ Brody, like we've kind of talked about all summer. So there could be someone potentially on the way out. So the Leafs could be interested in some of these guys, right? Bargain bin shopping when they sign their goalie. So the buckets we've put these players in, there's some low-key defensemen. One guy who is, I think, arguably the most interesting name out there. The obvious ones, we're going to look at some veterans and then some forwards who have NHL top 6 experience and would probably be like decent in the bottom 6 and probably still have game left. So starting out with the obvious ones, there's two. There's 2 forwards, 2 defensemen. Starting with 2 forwards, there's Tarasenko and Kane. Mm-hmm. Quickly, I don't want to bury the lead on Kane. I think we both share the same opinion. Patrick Kane is going to go to Buffalo, right?
That's just a hunch that I have, yes, and that's what I've shared multiple times. Some people thought that maybe the Sabres take a stab at him at the deadline, but I don't think that went very far at all. But from the Buffalo area, you get to do that 35 plus contract, but they have cap space. I don't think they should be doing that, simply because that would just cause cap issues the next year. But why would you do that when you have the space for this year? Right. So
you're talking about the signing bonuses that you can offer a guy on a 35 plus.
The performance bonuses.
Performance bonuses. Yes. So,
correct.
So just to explain to people who might not be familiar with this, it's a similar thing that what Boston did with David Krejci and Patrice Bergeron, where if there's performance bonuses, if those players hit those certain goals that you set for them, that cap is either allocated to this year, or if you're over the cap, it'll be allocated to next year. And
next year, yes. Yeah. And it's only for players 35 and over.
Yes.
So Max Pacioretty just signed a contract. Same sort of thing with Washington. I think it's a 2+1. I want to say something like that.
What do you mean by 2+1?
$2 million and then plus $1 million performance bonuses.
Maybe I just I don't know what the performance. I think you're right. I don't know if it's Pacioretty, but there was someone who signed with performance bonuses. It might have been someone on Anaheim where their performance bonuses were like play 5 games, get $250K.
Pavelski.
Yeah, maybe it was Pavelski. I don't know. So,
I think it was Pavelski in Dallas, I want to say.
Yeah. Anyways, it's just funny how like they can distribute these performance bonuses for guys like who are like obviously going to hit them. But hey, for a guy like Pacioretty, who knows if he's going to be healthy, right?
I don't even know how many games did he play 1 game this year?
He played 5 games this year. So okay, okay. Pause. Shout out to Cap Friendly. Not the sponsor ad read. You're not going to hear me ramble for 20 minutes here. Cap Friendly is the best. They have the performance bonuses details right here. So it is the player I'm thinking of is Pacioretty. 1 million bonus for 10 games played, 500K bonus for 15 games played, $500K bonus for 20 games. He needs to play 20 games and he gets $2 million guaranteed. That's pretty sweet for him. Good for him. He's good enough too. We wanted the Leafs to get him on that
Yeah,
on a
that
similar
was
style of deal, but
it's risky with those injuries, man.
it is. But I
Because
mean,
he hasn't played over 40 games in a couple seasons now.
yeah.
But anyways, Max Pacioretty is not a free agent. Let's get into the ones that are free agents.
Yeah.
Tarasenko, Kane. Kane, we're thinking is going to Buffalo. He, by a lot of people that tracked games last year, like points totals wise, he was down, obviously. Defensively, his numbers weren't very good last year. Like offensively, in terms of play driving, was not very good last year. And everyone thought, oh, it's because he's on the shitty Chicago Blackhawks. But some people were saying, people that were looking at the data, and as well as people that were tracking games, like every game that Kane was playing, was saying like he wasn't that good with the Rangers either. Like he had 6 points in 7 playoff games, which is huge, but defensively was a huge liability as well. So had a tough season, but also was 34 and was dealing with a hip injury. How does he come back from this hip issue? It will be seen. We will see, kind of thing. It'll be very, very interesting to see, and could really go either way. He's not 25. Like if he was 25 and he was getting this hip surgery done, I would say, okay, I think he's going to come back and play very well. Big hip issue at 34 plus. We'll see. We know the hands are still there.
Yeah.
But will the speed be there?
Yeah.
Can he keep up?
I think he can maybe get away with not being as fast as he once was, even though that was an integral part of his game. I think he does have like a nose for the offensive zone, finding the soft spots and being able to like create open ice for himself without just his speed. But like you said, though, he needs his speed to be super effective, like very, very effective on puck. So that's the only worry I think for me is this where the speed will affect him is on puck in the offensive zone and in transition. So
exactly.
But actually, like that's a good fit for Buffalo because they have a lot of guys who can do those things, right? You can kind of have Kane sit back and so I don't think I was wrong doubting the people who were saying Kane was not looking hot last year, but I'm doubling down on my doubt and banking on Patrick Kane to hopefully do the right things this offseason and get healthy. Listen, I'm not a doctor. None of us are. We're not going to be able to figure out what exactly his issue is and how he'll recover.
He's got good bones. He'll make a big comeback. Great bones.
As long as he drinks if he drinks his milk all summer, he'll be back. That's the one thing I'll say for certain. So, but yeah, no, I'm high on Patrick Kane. So, but it just sucks that he's going to Buffalo. What about Vladimir Tarasenko though? Do you like him? Like, where do you see him fitting?
So,
like, he's kind of
again, that was another one.
Like,
that was another one. Like the 50 points in 69 games is pretty good. It was down from the year before. Again, was not playing on the greatest team in St. Louis, but the numbers didn't really improve that much when he went to New York. But this is a guy that can shoot very, very well and can beat goaltenders from distance, and did so in the playoffs as well. I think he had 3 playoff goals, but really, really good shooter. So you got to think, like, what's a team that had trouble beating goaltenders in the playoffs? And like I look at Carolina. I don't know how much cap space they have, but just like in terms of, they had Pacioretty last year. That was their idea of who they wanted to get, and he unfortunately didn't work out due to injuries. But I think Tarasenko could work very well with the Hurricanes. I think that would be a great fit there. My Leaf spin that I didn't tell you about beforehand, but
lay it on me. I like it. I love the live reaction.
Like, where would he fit with the Leafs? Just anyone. We're playing with no cap space. This is 2004 hockey. If the Leafs were to sign him, like, where would he fit? Who would he bump out? Would he bump anyone out?
I'm wondering if he fits on the third line, bumping maybe like Domi or Yarncrook to center, Camp down. Because right now, remember we talked about that third line that might actually be really good. But I mean, if you have Tarasenko there instead of like a guy like Yarncrook, let's say, or David Kampf, like that might be a fit there. I don't know.
Yarncrook right wing, Tarasenko left wing.
I guess. I honestly don't know. Domi center, I guess. I honestly I don't know. But that's
would he be in your top 2 lines?
No, he would not. No chance. Because for me, he'd have to bump for line one, I'm assuming Bertuzzi's on line one, and I'm assuming Nyes is on line two with Tavares and Nylander. I don't see who you bump out from there, unless you, again, like we talked about many, many times, split up Nylander and Tavares and do, or split up
3 lines.
Make three like loaded lines. But again, like I the biggest issue with this team is that our speed down the middle is not there. So adding Tarasenko plus our slow centers, it's just like that's my only gripe with the scenario.
Not worth the premium in terms of price.
Agreed. To put it in,
but that shot is fantastic. I really like that shot.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, if he'd signed League Min, I'd take him, obviously.
He won't.
But
I think he wants he
will not. Yeah, that's probably why he fired his agent, right? So
some people are saying the Senators. I mean, I could see it maybe.
Listen, the Senators could be a good fit for him because the Senators are missing that like elite shot that they just lost into Brinkat. So I don't think that would. I think that would make sense for them for sure.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about the Senators, so I think they could use some forward help. And I'd like to say that there's been some model projections that have come out that have the Detroit Red Wings higher than the Senators. Just a little feather in the cap for me there.
I think second line, like right now, Daily Faceoff has Kubalik on the second line. I think
Tarasenko.
I'd want Tarasenko way more there.
For sure.
So that'd be a good fit.
You know who else I could see? This is just one off the top of my head. Is they don't have cap space, I don't think, but the New York Islanders. That seems like weren't they in on him before he got dealt, right? Like or like not before he got dealt, but I
actually don't know.
I feel like the Islanders were in on him during the expansion draft when Seattle passed.
Or you could have got him for free, and nobody wanted.
It's crazy, but there's a couple places he could go that would be interesting. I think. I also wouldn't last thing here. I wouldn't rule out a return to St. Louis.
No. Ooh.
No, not definitely. I don't know. I'm just speaking out my ass. I have no idea.
I wouldn't rule out anything because I know nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I have no inside sources, so maybe it could be that. St. Louis with looks like Shen and Vrana. I don't know. Maybe that could work. Why not? Because Brandon Saad's there right now. You bump him to third line. Yeah, why not? I don't know. Dallas, I heard, was also kicking around. I'm not too sure what their cap situation is.
Dallas is looking like
they have Duchesne. I don't know. Like they got a pretty. They got.
They're pretty loaded out right now. What am I saying? They have. Like, I don't know. There's no obvious contenders right now, but someone will obviously.
But someone will pick them up. I mean,
there's no way this guy goes into the year with a PTO. There's no way he's getting a deal done.
Well, I mean, like a PTO. You remember Mike Hoffman, PTO, and then signed $4.5 million.
That's a really good point. I did not think about that at all.
Right?
Did not think about that at all.
That's an option. But Vladdy Tarasenko, the body seems to be holding up better than what people thought after the expansion draft there. So there's that. Obviously, a great shooter. Overall play is kind of, on the back nine of his career. So how much is he worth? Is he valuing himself way above what the market does? We'll see. That'll be an interesting one to see who throws some cash at him. The other one that we have on here.
One thing before to get into these guys, I'm wondering what's holding. Like this is just a side tangent for me, but I'm wondering what's holding up the market here. Do you think it could be like the Leafs holding up the market, or like what else? Like we're looking to sign Matthews and Nylander. I think that's like the biggest, most obvious thing that we're looking to do. So are people waiting to see what happens with Matthews and if Nylander signs, or if he's traded, or if that is even an option? Like are people waiting before they go take stabs at this second crop of free agency to see if even Winnipeg, right? Like Winnipeg, like are there like a couple teams like holding up the market, or is everyone just on summer vacation right now? Like what the heck's going on?
Everything usually just slows down at this point.
Summer vacation,
I think.
Okay, yeah. We'll call it that. But before I cut you off,
also the insiders are at their cottage, so that's why you're not hearing a lot of noises, because they are literally not creating any.
Fair enough. So. But yeah, before I cut you off, I think you were going to mention the two defensemen that we had. Yeah. So one of the first one,
Tony D.
Yeah, Tony DeAngelo. Before you get into Tony DeAngelo, I just want to mention that he's like a pretty decent comparison, not comparison, but like like his contract should be similar to what Klingberg got. Is that fair to say? And if you could, and sorry to cut you
Maybe
off
a
there.
tad below,
And okay, so if you could get what number
but in
below
that range.
would you rather have Tony DeAngelo than Klingberg? Just out of curiosity.
Like Klingberg to DeAngelo, I think it's like a couple 100,000. I don't think it's that big. I mean, this is a guy who a year ago, like Shane Gostisbehere just went for what, 4.1, something like that. Klingberg just went for the same sort of number, same term. And Tony DeAngelo a year ago, albeit it was Chuck Fletcher and he is just the king of malpractice when it comes to contracts, but he went for 2 years, $5 million per, and they traded a second and a third for him or something like that.
Yes.
And this was the year after he had just gotten bought out before. Like,
and a year after they traded,
he still 100% has value. Yeah. Maybe there's a character issue there. And by maybe, I mean like, this is a guy that fell in the draft. And then the year after Tampa Bay took him first round, they traded him for a second round pick. Sorry, it was 2 years after. Yes, the first year of him in that organization, they traded him for a second round pick, a guy that went 18th overall, who put up pretty good numbers after that, got traded for a second round pick. And then he was involved in that Derek Stepan trade as well, where he went from Arizona to New York. And then we had that whole New York debacle on top of that too. So it's like there are character issues. So that's where it would go from, like on ice plays probably worth in the threes, but
you'll probably get like
it's getting kicked down to like 1 or 2 again. He's got to prove himself again. But if you have a slot, because you kind of do need a slot for that sort of player where it's offensive defenseman. He stinks in the defensive zone. You're not teaching an old dog new tricks. He's 28 years old. He's going to be good on the power play, and he's going to put up some points at 5-on-5, but he's not going to do anything in the defensive zone. So if you can shelter him, that would be a fantastic ad. If you could shelter him and smack him every time he says something stupid, like you have to have good leadership. If you bring him into Chicago, well, Chicago, actually, they have Corey Perry, they have Nick Foligno, so maybe that'd be okay. But if you bring him into
the best
Ottawa, like where there's a lot of malleable minds,
maybe
I think it could run amok.
Listen, Carolina was probably the best spot for him in the sense that like
they almost traded for him.
Yeah, fit and like Brendan Moore just being like a notably like good players coach. But I mean, they like I don't know who
they
knows.
They traded him away and they replaced him with Brent Burns. Like maybe they just looked at it and they went, we don't have another slot for him, or maybe they do. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I could totally see him going back to Carolina.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I don't think Brett Burns fills that spot. I think Brett Burns is more so of like a 2-3 for them than like a second power, like the slot that DeAngelo would fill, the second like jolt of offense to defense. I think he could offense on defense. I don't know, but that was one of the guys we brought up. Anything more on DeAngelo, or you want to move on to?
Just a sick puck handler, sick offensive defenseman, but a sickening in the defensive zone.
I like that.
And kind of a just can't help himself and is kind of a moron. Yeah, seems like. I mean, I have no inside sources, but I think I can say that after this is his 9th chance.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think he still has the ability, so he's going to get as many chances in the book. But I think it's going to hurt his top dollar that people would have been making. But this next guy though is one I actually think the Leafs could sign, and it could be a guy where we only get him for like $1 to $2 million, because again, like we talked about, I think I've mentioned a TJ Brody trade like 30 million times this offseason. I don't think it makes the team better, but I think it helps shore up your contract situation if you have to, right? Like agent guy. Anyways, I'm not going to talk about that, but Matt Dumba.
His name is Matthew Dumba. Yes.
Yeah, Matt Dumba is currently still a free agent. And honestly, if you would have told me that a year ago today, I think I'd be surprised, because I think I thought that at the very least a team, like even like a bad team, would chomp at the bit just to sign Matt Dumba, just for his like veteran presence. Like he's a good character guy that seems to be like a good character guy you want in your locker room. And it's not like his play is atrocious. Like he can still play. But yeah, what do you have on Matt Dumba?
I haven't done like a deep dive into Matt Dumba, but I mean, it seems like based on utilization from Minnesota, seems like they like him a good amount. Like
Yeah.
his offensive numbers totally dropped this year. Only 14 points in 79 games compared to 27 and 57 the year before, 21 and 51 the year before that. Like, and then at one point was a 50-point defenseman. I don't know how, but like we're at the point in the off season where it feels like there's not going to be any more term contracts given out. So like, what's Matt Dumba going to get, and why are teams holding off on him so much? I'm very very curious because I think he's a decent defenseman, right? Like,
He is
I don't
still
think that's a hot take.
listen. He still has game with him. Like the last 3 years, he's played like almost like 19, 20 minutes, like
Yeah.
18, 19 like minutes of ice time. Like if you dial that back, I think he's like a good like 3D. Excuse me, a good 3D for you. Um,
Yeah,
so
four,
I,
five,
I
six.
I don't hate him as an acquisition for the Leafs.
No, like I think especially the the right side is a little bit in flux. You have TJ Brody, you have Timothy Liljegren, you have John Klingberg, you have Connor Timmins as well. Um, but it's like which of those guys is like a bona fide second line guy? I don't really know, especially if TJ Brody goes down. Like you're gonna be in a little bit tough, which saying TJ Brody could get injured this year. I mean, he's a 34-year-old defenseman that got injured last year. So, you know, I think definitely in terms of the Leafs spin of where would he fit in the lineup, I think definitely would be like a second pairing kind of guy
Yeah,
that can minutes munch. So,
kind of like a Justin Hall. Honestly, people don't like to hear that, but like that'd be like his role. I think
uh,
probably get like a healthy amount of
yeah,
penalty kill time, be on the second line, play right D, try and minutes
yeah,
munch for our younger guys to get easier competition. And ideally, in a perfect world, Liljegren's able to make the jump and is able to take his spot.
yeah. That would be the most cap efficient. And to me, the most ideal $1.4 million for a second pairing defenseman. Like,
That's
who knows?
amazing.
Maybe John Klingberg clicks with Jake McCabe. That could always be a possibility,
That would be
right?
fun. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of options here. So,
Yeah.
um, moving on from there,
Very surprising he's not signed though. I don't know what's going on there.
yeah. I'm telling you, there's something holding up the market. There's a trade that's going to come, and there's going to be signings that will come out after that. I feel like
Who
so.
knows? I mean, the market was held up last year when it was supposed to be Kadri to the Islanders, and then what happened?
He went to the
He went to
Flames.
the Flames. So
I forgot. I remember when he signed. I forget what I was doing that day, but I just remember what I was doing that day. It was weird. Anyways, moving on from there, we have two guys who I think I'm going to bucket together. Still got an NHL game. I think I'm doing a little disservice to the first guy by putting the second guy here with him. But Thomas Tatar and Josh Bailey, sitting here with no contracts. Josh Bailey's. I mean, listen, he's 33. Didn't have the best season, but he can still score, right? As like a
he only had
veteran,
8 goals this year.
really. All right, maybe I
Yeah.
shouldn't have put him on this list. But maybe just touch on Thomas Tatar then. How about that?
Thomas Tatar has the craziest split between playoffs and regular season stats. And also this past season, I think he had 9 points on the empty net, 4 goals, 5 assists. So how's that for Pat Stat in there? But he was sixth on the Devils in 5-on-5 points as well. I believe fifth in terms of forwards there. That's in the regular season. In the playoffs, he had 1 goal in 12 games. And the playoffs before that, he had 1 point in 5 games with Montreal. He only played 5 games because Montreal went to the Stanley Cup Finals, and he got scratched every single game after, like from game 5 on, or from, I guess it would be game 6 onward. He got scratched. And then if you remember before that, he was with the Vegas Golden Knights, I believe, where he got scratched a ton in the playoffs as well and only had 2 points in 10 or so games. So this is a guy that hasn't had more than 2 points in a playoff series since 2015, 2016. And he's been to the playoffs multiple times since then. And his team has made it out of the first round many, many times since then as well. So in terms of why, I mean, he's got a okay goal scoring ability. His shot is decent, I would say, but he's not really like a net front grit guy. He's not really going to be tipping point shots, rebounds. Kind of like he doesn't have like a like I'm trying to think like a pattern in which he scores. I would say like not really like a space guy, not like I don't know, not really like he's just like kind of like a tweener, like like an Andreas Janssen plus. I would say.
Yeah, that's honestly a
Right.
great comp for him because like
But
he
but like if you
Andreas
can
Johnson
get him for
plus.
like 2 mil, maybe, and your third line add a little bit of offense, I think that would be okay.
Yeah, and also like listen, it's not like we are so spoiled as Leafs fans. It's like we're like this is the type of guy where I'd be like, nah, I don't want him. He's not good in the playoffs. But like, man, teams have to make the playoffs, right? Like you have
Yeah,
to
that's
play
true
82
too.
games first to make the playoffs. And if this guy's gonna help you, this is someone who like I think if you're a middling team can give you a big bump for like a cheap cost, right? Like we
Yeah,
saw it with like we've seen him do it before with other teams, right? Like you said, the Devils, right?
yeah,
So I mean, like you said, 2 mil. I
yeah.
take a stab at him if I'm a middling team like Ottawa. So
I think he could do something similar to what like Calle Yarncroc kind of did. You know when Calle Yarncroc got put with like exceptional talent, he put some pucks in the back of the net,
yeah,
kind of thing. I think he could probably do something kind of similar to that. But again, that's only going to probably be for like $2-ish million around
yeah,
there.
yeah.
I again, like after he left Montreal, I wanted the Leafs to get him for like 3-ish, but then he went 4.5 to the Devils.
2-year deal, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 years, 4.5 per, which was a little bit rich, but whatever. He up and down with the Devils, but that playoffs again makes no sense. I have to watch. It's something you'd have to watch closer to, but maybe it's because he's not. He's kind of a perimeter guy and doesn't do enough away from the puck, but that's something I would have to look into
Yeah.
more of.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Right.
Yeah. Wrapping
So
up with Thomas Tatar here. So
yeah,
other than that, we have a couple more players who we're gonna like maybe just do some quick hits on low key defense and that I think teams again, like I think these guys are good NHL players and I think they should be signed. Caleb Jones, Ethan Bear, and then Nick Holden, who's more of like a veteran 6'7". You have anything? I think we talked a good bit about Caleb
yeah.
Jones, but Ethan Bear was honestly I was shocked to see him on this list. But
I
I
think the
mean,
shoulder injury they didn't. Vancouver didn't pursue him after that. I mean,
fair enough.
how he looks after that shoulder injury, we'll see. But I think he was okay with the Canucks. I think he was
Listen,
fine.
he was fine with
So
the Canucks, and he also looked fine with Carolina too. Like he's not.
he's looked fine.
Listen in an offseason where we saw Justin Hall make what 3-4 mil.
A
I
10
think
mil total.
yeah, I think a team taking a stab at Ethan Bear as like their 5-6 is not the dumbest
Yeah.
idea.
I mean, Justin Hall like is penalty killing shot blocking. I feel like Ethan Bear is kind of like that tweener ish, like where he's not pure defensive defenseman, but he's also not really an offensive defenseman.
Yeah,
But I think he's got like some decent qualities where if you run into some injury issues, you can toss him in and he'll look fine. Like for example, like we had Matt Caldwell and Victor Mete in that sort of spot last year.
yeah.
I think Ethan Bear would be more than fine in that. Or even Jamie or Jordy Ben too. So I think Ethan Bear would fit fine in that sort of in like a seventh role. But currently the seventh role is Connor Timmins. Would I rather have Ethan Bear or Connor Timmins? I actually do not know.
I think I'd rather just quickly Connor Timmins. I think just because the upside, like he scored,
Yeah.
like just it sounds silly, but the point upside,
He just kept scoring.
yeah, it was weird. Like, listen, if
He
that's a
just
thing,
kept
like
scoring.
it was weird.
Yeah,
So,
that was wild.
but yeah, I see what you're saying there. Caleb Jones, obviously, we know the story. Caleb Jones played for the Blackhawks for a lot of the time, but again, like we said this
Played
before,
with Jake McCabe.
good underlying numbers. Played with Jake McCabe. I believe he can play both the left and right side. I don't know if that
He
was by
can.
choice, but
It seemed like everyone with Chicago was doing that though, because when
yeah,
Jake McCabe came over, I was like, he can play both sides, and I literally watched it with my own eyes. But I feel like Chicago just did that with every single defenseman.
yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I didn't
Just
follow the
just a little
Blackhawks
bit of
enough.
a value bump for the in the trade. So
Yeah,
um,
can play.
can play both
Man,
sides.
write that on his resume. Can play both sides. It was
Imagine
a
that's how they
disaster.
imagine
But
that's how they do it. Like it's just job like how teams trade for players. It's like job
Mhm.
opening, looking for left defenseman. You send a little
Yeah, what do you got
resume,
in this kid,
JKK.
Caleb Jones? He can play both sides.
And
Can
then
theoretically.
anything you want to touch on for Nick Holden, or
I think it would be again veteran seven
just a
eight
veteran
guy
guy?
kind of
Yeah,
thing.
Jordy Ben
League
style.
men
All
probably
right,
looking
last
for a
name,
one way.
most fun name. A lot of people were saying on Twitter they're shocked that he wasn't signed yet, and that's Pia Suter, and that's a guy
Yeah,
we actually talked
this
about.
was like Red Wings people too.
This is a guy we talked about 2 years ago as well. I don't know if you remember this, but we talked about him, and
Yeah.
we were like, the perfect Chicago Blackhawks center to get is Pia Suter, and then we signed David Kampfer. We're like, wait, what? I think everyone wanted Pia
Well,
Suter that year because he had like the good underlying numbers. He put up points.
do you remember he's part of the club of why the hell didn't the Blackhawks qualify this guy?
Yes, yeah. It's like just didn't make sense for them, but
He joins Dylan Strome. He joins
yeah,
Caleb Jones. He joins who was it? Who else was it? I feel like we're missing an SFU, but
I don't know.
whatever.
Anyways, but
Made
yeah,
no sense.
he seems like a yeah. What are your thoughts on Pia Suter? I know you haven't watched too much of his game, but you have anything?
Yeah, from the tidbits that I've seen, he's got a little bit of skill to him. I don't know why the next point that comes up in my head is centerman, but it's the thing we started with. But a little bit of skill to him. Can get moving like decently fast, I would say. Not a slow guy. Can push the pace a little bit. Sorry if the lightning is getting in the volume there, but his shot is not bad. Also, he had 14 goals last year. Like, not going to beat goalies from the blue line, but can beat them from if he gets a little bit in tight, like from the face-off circle. He's got a decent little rip on him that can beat the goaltender. So yeah, it was surprising to see like a few stats people and Red Wings people be like, how is Pia Suter not signed yet? Maybe I don't know. Maybe again falls into that Ethan Bear, Thomas Tatar tweener kind of where it's like, is he a defensive guy? Is he an offensive guy? But I think he can definitely bring something to a team, especially in the bottom half of the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a team that maybe potentially needs a bottom six center, if you count Peter Holland as well, if you don't count Peter Holland as your bottom six center or Dylan Gambrell, like,
Peter Holland.
or oh my gosh, oh my god, how did that's like a big brain fart on my
Peter
end.
Holland's not signing with the Leafs.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Gambrell, Kampf,
Holmberg. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking Holland over Holmberg. Anyways, it's been a long day. What I was gonna say is it's not cap friendly. Jeez, it's a tough episode for us. Evolving Wild has
you've got the brain bug that I had.
Evolving Wild, it's contagious. Evolving Wild has them projected at 2 years, 2.237. Is that something you'd be interested in
for Pia Suter?
Yeah.
Again, I haven't like done like a detailed dive into him. It'd be interesting to do that for some of these guys. Why not? But 2.3 says so. That's like right around what David Kampf got.
Yeah.
And that would be your fourth line center. So your third and your fourth line center would be Kampf and Suter. I don't know. What do we have right now? It would be Domi, I think, would be third line center. That's my assumption.
I think Kampf is our third line center, right?
It's possible. It's one of Domi, Kampf, or Holmberg. So, like who would I have rather have Domi or Suter? I think I would rather have Domi. Who would I rather have, Kampf or Suter? That's a decent question. I'm probably Kampf, especially he has a specialization to him. I think there are a lot of teams that should be kicking tires for that.
But as the Leafs, we pass on him, is what you're saying.
As the Leafs, I'd lean towards pass for 2.37.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't hate it one bit. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that's all we have for free agent targets here. Free agent.
Some guys that should really be in the NHL next year. I'm not too sure why they're not signed yet. Maybe it's just like a timing thing. Just a wait and we'll make some cap space, or wait, we'll give you a PTO and see if injuries happen or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe for Suter, I mean, he is Swiss, so like they can give out pretty good contracts back home there. Maybe he's like holding out for $1+ million here. If he doesn't get it, you sign. Same thing as Malgin. You go and you sign with your your team back home for pretty good money. So
Yeah, that's a good point. You just got to
yeah,
wait for another shoe to drop. And I mean, listen, if you watched last episode and you listened to my advice about watching the bear, there's always another shoe that drops. So I think that's it
I
for
don't know what
today.
that means.
Yeah, it was like, listen, I'm building some connections with people. If they listen to me last episode, then they'll be super connected to me right now. So,
All right.
anyways, I think that's it for today, right? I don't think I have anything
Yeah,
else on the
that's
docket
it.
here.
That's all we got.
All right.
Cool. We have the Rinky Awards next week.
Oh yeah,
Stay
yeah.
tuned
Okay,
for
yes,
categories.
yes.
Got some
So
good suggestions.
yes,
Essentially splitting it up, splitting up the defensive award into seeing defensive defenseman and offensive defenseman of the year kind of thing. And then you can just have defense. I don't know, and then there was another one, the Bob Probert Award, essentially like goes to the grittiest forward kind of thing. Bob Probert, like
speaks for
25, 30 goals, 500 fights, that sort of thing. Obviously not fights. The issue is the NHL will never have that award because they don't
want to condone
like
fights.
to market violence anymore
Yeah.
because they literally can't. There's been too many lawsuits against them, we'll call it. But
yeah, so just keep
something we can do. I don't care.
Keep an eye on Twitter, because we'll have the categories out soon. We'll probably finalize them for next episode, and then 2 weeks from now we'll be handing out the awards. And then maybe I'll wear a suit. Who knows? If enough people respond to that. Listen, I think you have 10 responses right now. If we can get to 20 responses, I'll wear a suit for that episode.
All right.
So
all right. That's all we got for today.
All right, that's it.
Sounds good. Thanks everyone for listening.
Go Leafs, go.